I predicted the 2024 NCAA volleyball bracket, the entire 64-team bracket, with just 4 days to go until selections. I used the majority of the AQs that are already clinched through the 27th, and the rest I predicted. This was still just as hard, but I do my best to follow the committee's selection criteria and bracketing principles. I seed the top 32 teams across 8 seed lines, and the 4 8 seeds must go to one of the 4 1 seeds, so on and so forth. Then after that, I always have to follow travel rules when possible, meaning if a school can drive to another within 400 miles, it must happen before creating a flight. So here is my bracket. My top 4 seeds overall, the 1 seeds, are Nebraska, Pittsburgh, Louisville, and Penn State. The committee has really emphasized top 10 wins this season, so I gave Nebraska the top overall seed with the most top 10 wins of anyone, and then kind of order it based off of that. Creighton just barely missing a top 4 seed, but in contention for it in this projection. My 2 seeds are Creighton, Stanford, Wisconsin, and SMU. The committee was really high on SMU in their first reveal, and they've won most of their remaining schedule since then. My 3 seeds are Arizona State, Kansas, Oregon, and Purdue. The Ducks and Boilermakers still have to play this week, but predicting they will still end up pretty close in the seedings. And then the most difficult category, the 4 seeds, I have Texas, Kentucky, Utah, and Florida. Texas, more losses, but the head-to-head over Kentucky, and the last 2 were the toughest. I was splitting hairs on who I thought the committee would select to host. We know ranked wins are really important to them. Utah has ranked wins over Baylor, TCU, and BYU, and Florida has ranked wins over FSU and Missouri. Teams like USC, Baylor, Dayton, Georgia Tech, and Minnesota were in consideration, but just more losses, or in the case of Dayton, no big wins. USC, Baylor, Dayton, and Georgia Tech ended up as my 5 seeds on the outside. So let's take a closer look at this hypothetical bracket. After all my top 32 teams were matched with one another as the 1 and 2 seeds of each regional, the rest of the bracket is then broken down to 3 and 4 seeds. I then bracketed those out while trying to stick to the curve, but also putting teams in regionals within 400 miles and outside of their conference. I did get a true 1, 2, 3, and 4 seed in every regional in this projection. Some fun early round matchups on the top left are Georgia Tech versus Florida, FSU versus ASU, and if the top seeds made it through, Nebraska would have to get through Florida, and SMU versus ASU, and then what a rematch potential between Nebraska and SMU to make it to the national semifinals. On the bottom left, Creighton would have to get through Purdue, which is another fun rematch, and Penn State and Texas would have to face off for what I think would be an insane battle. And then if the top seeds win, Creighton versus Penn State for a shot at the semis. On the top right, we have a Battle of the Bluegrass rematch with Louisville and Kentucky. And how about Stanford and Oregon reuniting for a Pac-12 throwback? If top seeds win, we will have an all-ACC battle between Louisville and Stanford. Then bottom right portion of the bracket, Wisconsin versus Kansas, Pitt versus Utah, and then potentially Pitt versus Wisconsin for a spot in the semifinals. How great would that be? So there it is, my 2024 college volleyball bracket projection. The week of selections, this bracket would give us such fun tournament matchups. Let me know what you think of this hypothetical bracket.